U.S. President Joe Biden hit the campaign trail in Michigan and continued his relentless sprint to persuade lawmakers, donors and voters that he is in good shape. His campaigns come amid mounting pressure to drop out of the U.S. presidential race. The 81-year-old made a surprise stop in Detroit and acknowledged speculation surrounding his candidacy. He even joked that he is just 41.
For the longest time, I was too young because I was the second youngest man ever elected to the United States Senate. And anyway, now I'm too old. But I know, hopefully with a little bit of age comes a little bit of wisdom. And hopefully that in this moment, I think the alternative is not much of an alternative.
Biden's first solo press conference the previous day witnessed the president present a detailed picture of his policy. But the verbal flops, referring to Ukraine's Zelensky as President Putin and Vice President Kamala Harris as Vice President Trump, ruined his efforts.
Russia will not prevail in this war. Ukraine will prevail in this war, and we'll stand with them every single step of the way. That's what the compact says, loudly and clearly. And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there. Number one, the fact is that the consideration is that I think I'm the most qualified person to run for president. I beat him once, and I will beat him again.
Biden's Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and National Security Advisor sat in the audience, and their dismayed expressions after the gaffe was captured on camera. Thereafter, 24 former Democratic lawmakers sent a letter to Biden calling for an open convention this summer to decide the 2024 ticket. They have warned that if the president stays on ballot, it would mean that the party would not only lose the White House, but also decimate their ranks in Congress. However, analysts believe that Biden was fluid and did extremely well at the recently concluded NATO summit, and that every flab was being magnified tenfold.
Presidents make gaffes all the time. They say things that they don't mean to say. But because of Biden's debate performance and these growing, and then what the polls show about him losing to Trump, and growing doubts among leading Democrats that he can win and defeat Trump, every flub is magnified tenfold.
Meanwhile, the list of business leaders calling for President Biden to step aside has grown. The latest addition is Richard Branson, the founder of the Virgin Group. In a blog post, Branson heaped praises on the president for his accomplishments while in the White House, but underscored that now is the time that he should consider what's at stake and step back from the run. To add to the miseries, several major donors informed the Biden campaign that they will be withholding around $90 million of promised funds if Biden gets the ticket. According to reports, the frozen amounts included multiple eight-figure commitments. Biden, the oldest person ever to serve as the President of the United States, has had a series of verbal slip-ups lately. In an interview with Philadelphia's radio station about a week ago, Biden mistakenly referred himself as the first black woman to serve with a black president. He had momentarily confused himself with Vice President Kamala Harris while reflecting on his time as Vice President under former President Barack Obama. And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Teherani has sent us this report from New York.
The Democratic donors' decision to withhold approximately $90 million in pledge to a pro-Biden super PAC called Future Forward is a significant blow to President Biden and his re-election campaign. This development really highlights the fallout from President Biden's poor debate performance against former President Donald Trump and growing concerns about his viability in the general election. Now, the frozen contributions include multiple bigger commitments, indicating a substantial loss of support for the president. And while some donors say that withholding funds is a mistake, while others are hesitant to invest in a campaign with an uncertain future. The cash fees also coincides with increased calls for the president to step aside from Democrats and the campaign's own efforts to possibly look for an alternative candidate like Vice President Kamala Harris. Meanwhile, Democrat House Minority Leaders Hakeem Jeffries did not offer his endorsement for President Biden following his press conference on Thursday when they met. Jeffries instead reflected the views of his caucus in the meeting. In a letter, he also said that he passed along to President Biden what he'd been hearing from Democrats, many of whom had told him to tell the president to step down. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.